She drinks a lot and she's worth it. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla Rundle. With this video, it's a little bit of a spin because my car is cammed and modified engine-wise with the new springs, push rods, oil pump, cam, all that. So I will not be using the normal Mobil 1 5W30. I actually end up using Valvoline VR1 10W30. So if you guys are wondering why I use the Valvoline VR1 racing oil, funny enough, I actually ordered this off of Amazon. I've been using the same oil since I got my car cammed, which was about a year ago. So this is my now third oil change since my cam. So yes, 3 oil changes in 1 year. But the VR1 contains actually 75% more zinc than synthetic oil. And if you guys don't know what zinc is, it is a type of metal. Ding. Zinc is actually used to assist the engine, which actually reduces friction issues inside your engine. It gives you the best performance and longevity over time because it prevents wearing of the camshaft. If you do have an aftermarket camshaft, the cam, as it's spinning and as you're driving, the cam actually allows small amounts of oil to get into the engine, and it actually pushes open the valves as it rotates, and then this at high speeds, when it has higher pressure, it'll allow oil to push through the lobes of the cam. It is important to have some type of coating to protect the longevity of your cam over time. And so the zinc creates a coating on your camshaft, which makes it last longer. I've been researching this, and there actually are some myths about zinc in oil. Yes, if you guys choose to go with an oil with the zinc in it, yes, it will protect your engine and your camshaft and protect it. But the zinc does turn into ash, which this ash will actually travel through your exhaust pipe and into your catalytic converter, otherwise known as CATs. And so if you guys do have catalytic converters, they will lower the lifespan of your CATs. So that is the downsides of this. But if you guys are cammed and are heavily modified, I do recommend this. If you guys are driving on a stock Camaro, I do not recommend this. But for my built people, so let's get this thing jacked up so I can fit my arm underneath there. I don't know why jacking up the car is always the scariest part for me, but it kind of gives me an anxiety attack every time I jack up my car. My car is very, very low in the front because I do have the carbon side skirts that come lower than the stock side skirts themselves. So my jack does not fit in the front side of my side skirts at all. So I've been struggling with this for the last year, and I finally invested into some race ramps, which are only $150 for what I needed because I only needed the race ramps to assist me with jacking up my car. So now I can finally fit a jack underneath the front end of my car because I haven't been able to do this since I put on my side skirts over a year ago. So let me show you guys exactly on where I jacked up my cars to help you guys out. So when you're underneath, I know there's a lot going on, but this, oh god, my finger's in it. This giant metal thing right here, that is your oil pan, aka meaning it holds your oil. So there's a bolt usually attached to your oil pan, and you can clear as day see it right there. And I do have, I think it's called the gold plug. It's an aftermarket plug that has, it's like a giant magnet, so it does pick up on any metal pieces in my oil. It's just an easier way to examine my oil when I pull it out and just to keep it cleaner. And then right next to it, also attached to the oil pan, is your oil filter. I believe I used a K&N last time. But the method for this is to take out the plug because that's where most of your oil is going to come out of. And once you remove the plug, clean it off, put it back in, and then remove the filter after that with the same process. So the first step for an oil change is you do have to pop your head and remove your oil cap, which in my case, I have an oil breather. It's in the same exact place as your oil cap would be. So it's all the same, it's in the same place, so it's not that big of a worry. But all you have to do is just pop that off. And in my case, it's like a little screw. And put this to the side for later once you have all the oil filled up. And now once you have the oil cap off, the reason I did remove the oil cap first is because if you keep it on, it will build up pressure as the oil is coming out, and it'll create kind of like a vacuum seal up, so not all the oil will come out. So you just want some air flowing through from the top to bottom so all your oil will come out at once. Do that to me. All right, so just to be safe, I am leaving the race rams underneath. That's worst case scenario. And if you move them, it just creates extra work for when your car gets jacked down. My suspension is very tight, so my wheels don't even fall down my fender very much. Like, that's very little. That's literally what stock cars ride at. So those don't go all the way down. So I'm sure if you guys have stock suspension, the wheels will go down further. It's not a bad thing if that happens. And where I jack it up is you have these cross beams, which these are made out of steel, and it's all this black. So this right here and the cross beams that go across, those are all the main, that's all the main chassis of your car. So you're able to jack it up from any one of those points. I try to bring the jack as far back as possible because it's safer, and if you bring it up all the way to the front, you will have to make the jack up a lot higher just because of the geometry of it. So I always do it in the center of the cross beams. And then I got a couple jack stands and I put them on both sides, so on the back side of where the cross beam is welded onto the chassis right here. So they're both in the same place on both sides, and that's probably the safest spot to have them. And I will be leaving this jack here. I did loosen it so the car fell onto the jack stands, so it is resting on the jack stands. But then I use this and just tighten it up just enough so where the car is sitting on all 3 points evenly. So now I have 3 things just in case if one fails, I can rely on the jack stands. If this fails, the jack stands will hold it. And worst case scenario, my car will go on that, which will probably not crush me because there is enough space underneath here. Also, another piece of advice is to let your car warm up before you do the oil change. This way, all your seals are loosened up. I had an issue because I left to get lunch last year while I was in the middle of an oil change, and I did not take out my oil filter, and it ended up causing the oil filter to seal into my oil pan, and that just makes everything so much harder to get apart and get out. So when everything's heated up, it just makes it a lot easier to get apart. So I found a bolt for the oil drain plug, and I'm going to be using a 15 millimeter. This is like a tiny wrench, so hopefully I'm strong enough to get it. Otherwise, you can hook up a bar and make it longer for more leverage to get it out. So I'm going to show you guys. Well, while we let that drain out, I did remove the bolt, I did remove the oil plug, and as you can see, it does actually have a little bit of metal on top. My car does create more metal because it does have zinc, like I talked about earlier. So that's what that is. Nothing serious on it, so looking pretty good. So we just got to get this cleaned up to put it back in.
Well, it looks like the stream is finishing up, so I'm just gonna wait until it starts dripping and put the oil plug back in. And that's the magnetic thing at the end of it.
Well, I'm balancing you guys on my wheel right now, but first things first, after you get the bolt back in, then you have to do the oil filter. So I'm using the Wix filter 57060. Not anything special, it's just to get the right oil filter that is used for your car. A lot of people don't do this, but it's very important because you don't want to be like me and take 10 hours getting off your oil filter if somebody forgot to do this. But you can use your old oil or new oil. I'm just gonna use my new oil. So crack this guy open, and I wanna use your finger and get it a little oily, and just cover the rim with fresh oil, which is like the rubber gasket. And when you take off your other oil filter, make sure the rubber gasket didn't stick to your oil pan, otherwise it'll create a leak. I've never had mine get stuck. My gasket always gets stuck with the filter and not just on the oil pan, luckily. So yeah, usually I have more problems getting the filter off. Another trick is so your engine's not going to be starving with oil for like that quick, like 0.1 seconds when you start your car. I take my oil and just fill up the oil filter to as much as it wants to take. And it kind of just bubbles down into there. So I just kind of give it a few seconds. I do this because if you fill your oil, then your oil filter will have no oil in it and your engine will think it's starving itself for a quick second. It's kind of just a quick insurance thing. Anywhere that I can have like quick insurance on my car, just for taking an extra effort, I usually try to do. But it just keeps taking it, so you just keep giving it. Alright, so I'm putting the oil filter in right now. As you can see, it screws in to the right, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And once it gets pretty tight, I kind of just take like, I think it's an extra half a turn more than hand snug, really. Since I've had problems in the past of getting it stuck, I do kind of keep it a little loose, but that's my hair. I just kind of tighten it for as much as I can. And I do make sure just to clean out the oil pan with oil, because you don't want any oil burning off because it smells really bad. It makes you, and if you see smoke or smell burning oil, then you think your car is gonna be broken. So just get rid of that excess oil when you can. So the Camaros take 8 quarts of oil, and I got a funnel. I bought this from AmsOil online. You could use any funnel. I used to use like a fuel funnel. That didn't work out so good because it's textured. So I got an oil filter. I got an oil funnel. And so I just kind of slowly pour this in and listen to see if there's any leaks. This is the best time to see if you got everything tightened underneath or if anything's wrong. Usually there's no issues, but just in case. This sometimes makes me love my Civic because my Civic only takes like 4 of these and my Camaro takes double the amount of oil. But it's okay, she drinks a lot and she's worth it. And with your empty oil bottles, I recommend to not throw these away right now as you're doing it. Don't just be chucking it in the trash can, because you can use these containers to put your old oil in and then take it back to the store where you buy your oil. They usually can recycle your old oil. So that's the best way to dispose of your old oil. I just put it back in these containers, so you're not giving them like new containers or like using containers that you actually use and giving them to just giving them to O'Reilly's. So make sure to keep these containers. I definitely should have gotten like a 5-gallon of this because it wouldn't take me as long to individually pour every single quart in my car. And again, if you are cammed, you do have to change your oil more often than if you aren't, just because it uses everything a lot more, including more fuel, less miles per gallon, more oil, more power. And that is the last of the oil. I went through all 8 quarts and put them in there. Like I mentioned before, just a quick underneath run of the car to make sure there's no oil dripping after we just filled it up. And she's good! Woo! Alright, we can jack down the car and the oil change is complete. And there is a method to everybody's madness. But now we have to empty this oil pan into the containers that we just dumped the oil out. So I set it up like this so I could just go down the line and fill up the containers. So this is seriously such a great trick to see if you did the oil change correctly. Is here, if you do have, this is the package, it does tell you your oil pressure. So mine is like 3/4. I do have an oil pump that ups the pressure, so mine might be a little bit higher. But as long as it's not all the way to the red, you should be good. Thank you everybody for watching today's video. I am gonna get the Camaro all washed up for tomorrow. I'm gonna be taking her to the car show at Anthem Cars and Coffee. So I gotta do that before it gets too cold and the sun goes down. But I hope you guys learned something from this video. It does seem very simple to do an oil change, but there's actually a lot to it. So hopefully you learned something from it and now you can go change your guys' own oil, because I just want to inspire and help people, because if I can do it, you guys can too. Trust me, I am not a car person, but I landed myself here and I love it. It's so fun. Everything's like Legos, so it's super easy. As usual, go check out my TikTok and Instagram. It is all Kayla Rundle. And I hope you guys all have an amazing day or night or whatever time it is. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.